So, welcome to the seventh episode of the Joseph M. Leather podcast. Today, I'm with Jesse from Texas, United States, who is the founder of Lost Penguin Leather. Founded in 2012, Lost Penguin aims to create usable leather goods. Welcome, Jesse.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks for reaching out. I'm excited.
Yeah, so am I. So you got back to me with a quick response, which was handy, and yeah, we set this up, so it's good.
Well, I was glued to my phone that day because it was my Instagram was blowing up from
Yeah,
the Parker video.
yeah. How did you how well firstly so what was did you get like more followers? Did you get more messages? What was sort of the reaction from that?
Um, well, so I got a message from Parker with Stock and Barrel, and he said, "Hey man, I just gave you a little shout out on my video I just did on YouTube. If you want to check it out, here's the link." I was like, "Cool," and I was kind of thinking just like a short, quick mention. So I went and checked it out, and then he did a really, really nice shout out to me and four other makers that he felt deserved a little attention and was just incredibly flattering. Anyways, it was a nice produced video that he did, and he showed a bunch of screenshots in the video of my website and my Instagram feed and all kinds of stuff. And about the time I finished watching it, I look at my Instagram and the followers were like slowly rising. Not huge numbers, of course. I think at last check, it gained me like, I think I was almost 300
Yeah.
followers, which to me is a lot.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
someone that's already got 10,000 or 20,000 followers, that's not much, but to me, it's incredibly flattering. I've got a lot of new faces that I've been
Yeah.
seeing and getting a few likes here and there, and it's awesome.
Yeah, no.
And really, it's awesome to be kind of mentioned alongside of the other four makers.
Mm,
Very flattering.
yeah. So how do you know Parker? And do you have a reason why you think that he shouted you out specifically?
No, I don't know him personally. Which, like most of us in this leather community, it's all through social media.
Yeah.
I've been following Parker for a long time. I try to engage with him when I can on Instagram. Um, he drops in on some of our live videos ever so often, and he's real good about asking questions and interacting too. And we've kind of chatted back and forth, comment back and forth on each other for the past, couple 2 or 3 years or however long I've been following him. And I don't know why he chose me.
Yeah.
Like I said, I feel like it was kind of I'm pretty modest for the most part,
Yeah.
so it was really raised my spirits a lot that he recognized me because Parker does great work, great leather work. He does great content creation, and there are a ton of people that follow him and engage with him, and I just feel really fortunate that he was kind enough to do it.
Yeah, you brought up a good point because none of us know each other personally. Like we've never seen each other in real life, and that's sort of the sad side to it. I think like it's when I talk to people, it's like you get along with them so well, but you don't have that face to face connection, that's the
Right.
downside.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. Like I'm I have a pretty small circle as far as like people that I engage with, like in person, right?
Hmm.
Like friend circle, family circle, things like that. It was pretty small, and I'm honestly really okay with that. I'm not a super sociable person, like here in real life,
Yeah.
but the the people and friends that I've made, and a lot of people I can call really good friends that I've met through Instagram, other like-minded people, whether it's leather makers or engravers, silversmiths, like all these things that I've really taken an interest in, that these people I've met. And I 10 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if somebody would have told me, "Hey dude, you're coming up pretty soon. You're going to meet all these people on the internet, and you're gonna make all these friends with them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when we're growing up. I don't know how old you are. I'm 35.
Yeah.
So I kind of grew up in the boom of the internet, you know, like I came up with like the chat rooms and like all that goofy stuff. Is like never tell people your name, never
Yeah.
meet someone from the internet, you know, all these things. And here I am sitting now where at least once a year I make a point to go meet these people that I met on the internet. And
Yeah.
they know who I am. They see my picture, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but the community that's been built around it, it's fascinating. I mean,
Yeah. I know
they're
it's so weird because like you can go out to, you can go to a shop or anywhere in real life, and everyone's sort of like awkward with each other, and you get on the internet and everyone's just shares their life story. It's
yeah,
just,
right, right.
it's just
Yeah,
fascinating.
it's that community thing that's been built up around it,
Yeah.
and it's wild because in leather work, I mean, I can't speak so much for all trades, but I know in leather work, you know, I've talked to some of these guys that are a little older than I am that have been doing leather work that run like maybe a saddle maker. You know, I've heard Don Gonzalez mention it several times. Like when he was coming up, you couldn't just walk into somebody's saddle shop and say, "Hey, man, will you show me how to do this?"
Yeah.
People weren't so easy with giving out information,
Mm.
and now there are so many people out there that are so willing to say, "Oh yeah, well this is the tool that I use. This is the technique. This is how I do it. Um, go check out so and so. They're my supplier. They carry this product."
Yes, it's an interesting thing because I've thought about that as well. Like, why people would just be like, "Hey, this is how I do it. Copy it, and you can make things just as good as me, or even better than me." And I was sort of thinking about it, and I think because the fact that you're sort of helping your business at the same time, so you're sort of getting that payment, so to speak, of people watching you, following you. So it's sort of like it's still a bit of a transaction, just not in cash form.
Sure, yeah, yeah. Well, it's networking.
Yeah,
You know that
yeah.
you know that's what people in a business realm would call it. You know, 15, 20 years ago, you go
Mm,
to conferences and you would network with people to make your connections. I mean that's what LinkedIn is, right? I mean
yeah.
that's it's the internet way of making networking like the professional networking site. But yeah, I mean there's value in that because I know, you know, I've met people that I know if I get in a bind, I can call them and say, "Hey, man, can you come give me some help this weekend?"
Mhm.
One of my best friends now, I met him on Instagram. I was doing a live feed, and he was a leather worker. He's like, we got to talking, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm from Wichita Falls." He said, "Really? I am too." So we kind of just on the in this live feed I was doing, we kind of made that connection through that, and then at the time another friend of mine here locally that did woodwork, he and I were kind of putting together a group where it was like a makers group that we were trying to get people that did different, you know, woodworkers or the leather workers or whoever. We were meeting once a month. You know, we'd go to the local bar, you know, meet up and chat, you know, just talk shop. And so I had invited this guy. I was like, "Hey, you're a local maker. You should come." And come to find out, he lived 2 blocks from me.
Wow, that's cool.
So, but yeah, you know, that was a connection I probably would have never made. And now he spends almost as much time in my shop working with me and on his stuff as I do on my own stuff.
Yeah,
And that's something that would have never happened without that form of networking.
yeah. Yes, that's great. So then, how did you get into leathercraft?
Well, it's a funny one.
Because you've been around since 2012. That's a Yeah, just compared to like us, like people who just started, 2.5 years ago.
Well, we'll go way back.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a pretty small town. About 3,000 people was our population. Very rural Texas town. Um, and my uncle owned a conditioning yard for cattle. So I know y'all are big ranch ranching. And I know there's a lot of ranching in Australia, right?
Yeah, probably. I'm more in the suburbs, so if we go, yeah, but yeah, I know what you mean. Like,
Anyway,
there's a huge difference between like urban and rural. Like just the, and I guess that's sort of similar anywhere. But yeah,
yeah.
you're right on that.
Um, but yeah, let me preface it too. Like if I've got bad slang, and when I
Oh, that's
talk,
what.
so if there's anything that doesn't click with you, let me know, and likewise, I'll let you know because I
Yeah,
know there's a little bit of a wall there
yeah,
on some stuff.
yeah.
Anyways, my uncle owned a conditioning yard and is a conditioning yard and a feed store.
Hmm.
So the feed store aspect was where you go buy the big like 50-pound bags of cattle feed or horse feed and things like that. But the conditioning yard aspect of it was he ran his own cattle there, but also um, if there's a big ranch close where they've got say 100 head of cattle that they're about ready to take to sale, they'd bring them to him and he'd put them out in the lots or in the pasture and they'd feed them out and then
Hmm.
they'd load them and take them to sell for them. It's kind of like a middleman of sorts.
Yeah,
Um, or you don't have time to work your own cattle to doctor them and do whatever work you need to. You could bring them to them and him and his workers would or cowboys would work the cattle and do all that for you. And anyway, so when I was growing up, my dad would go help him on the weekends because it was my dad's brother. Well, on the weekends when I was a kid, how much fun is that? He'd load me up and I'd go spend my weekends on horseback just riding around playing cowboy and Indians while he went and worked and did all that stuff. So I kind of grew up around like that cowboy Western lifestyle, like actually working cattle, being on horseback and helping out where I could. And I think in doing that, I don't think I know. I mean, just seeing the work that was done, I grew to really appreciate where that leather came into play, right? Because almost the best tool of a working cowboy is his saddle, right? Because if you don't have a comfortable saddle, you're going to be miserable on a
yeah,
horse all day long. Your horse is going to be miserable and disgruntled, and you're not going to be a good relationship there. So I think early on, I gained a uh, appreciation for leather work, but as a tool, a usable tool, something that serves a purpose. And then, not just with a saddle, but your chaps or your leggings that the cowboy wears, and so that kind of really planted that seed. And then, skip forward till I was about 14 years old, and I decided being a cowboy wasn't cool anymore, and I didn't want to do that anymore. So, I left all that behind me. And so say that ends about 14 years old, and then we jump forward to when I'm in college. So I have a bachelor's degree from in history is my major. And after I finished my bachelor's, I didn't know what to do, so I thought, hey, I'll get a master's degree. Why not? I can't find a job now. Let me get more education and see if I can use it then.
yeah.
But so when I was in grad school, I got kind of uppity and elitist of sorts, and because I would I'd wear a suit and a
Yeah,
jacket to because I while in grad school I worked for a professor as a teaching assistant or a graduate assistant.
yeah,
So I worked at the university for my professor, and I would do like menial administrative tasks, grade papers or log grades and attendance and things like that. And I felt fancy because I had my own office. So I'd wear my suit and my tie to work every day, and I got some pretty expensive tastes while doing that.
yeah,
And I thought I needed a Louis Vuitton, like the duffel bag, like a carry-on size duffel
yeah,
bag. I think it's the keep all or carry all. I wanted one so bad, but I was a graduate assistant making hardly any money at all, college student. And I thought, shoot, I can make one of those.
yeah.
How hard could it be?
I think that's every single leather crafter when they
Yeah,
start out.
yeah. And my mom's a really good seamstress,
Yeah.
and so she and I sat down and kind of drew up some patterns and plans. And there's a there's a big rodeo that happens here in Wichita Falls, and that's where I went to university, was in Wichita Falls, Midwestern State University. So I was living here, stayed here, obviously, but there also happens to be a big rodeo every year that happens here, and they have a big trade show also that corresponds with the rodeo. So you have all these different vendors,
Hmm.
like Western lifestyle vendors, whether it's clothes or boots or hats or housewares, whatever. And there was a leather supplier that was had a booth there, and they had all these tables of leather laid out. And I found the cheapest, junkiest side of chrome tan leather that I had cash in my pocket for. And my mom and dad were with me at the show. You think we can make that bag out of this? And my mom's like, oh yeah, we've got the plan. So I buy the leather up.
Yeah.
We sat down with our pattern or whatever that we'd made, and that's when it kind of dawned on me, like, this is going to be a little harder than what I thought.
Yeah.
I got on eBay and I found like this old lot of like leatherworking tools, is what the title was, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know what I needed.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I didn't
Oh.
know what I was looking for.
Yeah.
I bought the chrome tan because I didn't know what kind of, like, I didn't know the different kinds of leather. And in the lot that I bought on eBay, I think I gave like $20 for it. It had two of like those speedy stitcher awls.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Those things. It's
It's
so
got like the
OP.
wood handle with the awl blade, and then inside it's got the spool where you hand do a lock stitch.
Wow.
Anyway, so it had two of those and a couple spools of hand stitching thread and like a ton of random needles. And I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure most of them were like material needles. Like, but I mean that's what did it. I bought that side of leather and I was like, this duffel bag's gonna be a lot of work. What else can I make?
Yeah.
So I made some other small leather items. The phone slip. I think that's kind of the first go-to for people now, or then it was like make the
Yeah.
phone slip. A real simple little knife sheath, and then I started researching it. YouTube will have a lot of stuff. I'll go to YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, in 2012, there was not a lot of how-to videos for leatherwork back then. Tandy had a handful, and they were real minimal videos. It was, this is how to use our antique. This is how to use our specific tool. This is, so they weren't really in-depth videos. But there were a few people out there that put out some decent ones. Ian
Yeah.
Atkinson.
Yeah. That's. I was thinking that because when I got into leathercraft, I think it was like 2018. Like, what's Ian's videos, and they're from like 2009 onwards. So they were.
Yeah, he was really early in on it.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as I know, he was probably one of the first people on YouTube putting out quality videos
Yeah.
and like very in-depth videos, and
Yeah.
they were very good.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so he was one of the first ones that I saw on there, and then kind of he did some videos like explaining different tools and stuff,
Hmm.
and so that helped a lot. And then another gentleman, his name is Bruce Cheney. He's from Gainesville, Texas, which is about an hour and a half from where I am. He's an older gentleman, but he makes saddles and spurs and bits, like spurs and bits for horses. And he was making videos. Like same thing. His weren't super in depth, but he was making videos, which was pretty interesting because I mean, at that point, he was well in his 60s.
Hmm.
So I'm watching him thinking, what is this old guy doing making YouTube videos? But come to find out, he'd been making how-to videos for years. Like, you used to be able to buy the VHS set, like how to
Wow.
make a saddle, that he had done for a long time. So he was ahead of his times, when he was doing that.
Yeah.
And but all that to say, that kind of just a little bit of research here and there kind of told me different things to be looking for and different tools that I might need. And also, some people get not mad, but jokingly mad at me because I bought that leather, my first piece of leather, in August or September of 2012. And I was doing my research and found there was this boot and saddle maker show, a vendor show. Well, that's cool. What's this all about? And I click on it, and it was in Wichita Falls. So here in the U.S., there are like 3 or 4 big leather trade shows. One's in Prescott, Arizona. One's in Sheridan, Wyoming. Um, and then one in Wichita Falls, Texas. And then there's another one. I can't think of where it's at. It'll come to me.
Yeah. Of all
But
places as well.
right, yeah. So how lucky am I that in my backyard there's this huge leather vendor show?
Hmm.
So I go check it out, and it's all the big names, like all the tool makers, all the leather distributors, all the machine vendors are there, and I was just like in awe, like walking, touching everything, like picking up leather and bending it and like feeling it and
Yeah.
asking them like, what kind of leather is this? What do you call this? And what's this tool for? What's this tool for? So I got very lucky that very early when I started, I had that resource very close to me that I was able to stumble upon and talk to a lot of very knowledgeable people. And all the greatest tool makers and leather distributors, at least here in the U.S., are here. And where do I spend all my money? Tandy. Which I'm not knocking Tandy. Tandy is they are a great resourcers for crafters and beginners, in my opinion. Um, I think that when you're starting out, they're the best place to go to get your tools because they do make them somewhat affordable for people to get in. And if you, depending on the store you go to, they normally have some pretty knowledgeable people to help you out. But I mean, I got to give them kudos because I didn't have very much money then, and I was able to spend it there, and it's kicked me off. And we're sitting here right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of got me kicked out. That was my first place that I bought vegetable tan leather, which all along that's what I needed to be using this whole time, right? Like that's my go-to. My go-to is veg tan. And like most people, I just started piddling and making small accessory items, phone cases, or a holster, or a belt, or guitar strap. I really got a lot, got my legs under me doing some guitar straps. Early on, I did a lot of guitar straps for people, and yeah, just trying to find my way, what I was doing, and where my fit was. And it took me a while to kind of find that. Because I mean, for up until I guess 2015, no, 2006, 15 or 16, every order I took was custom work.
Yeah.
Almost everything I would do would be custom work. And, it was a hobby then. I was just basically taking whatever order I could take to make a little bit of money to buy my next side of leather and, snowball that. And there we are. I
Yeah.
finally made that, the tote, or not the tote, but the duffel bag.
Oh yeah, yeah.
About a year later, I finally made that duffel bag, and I
Yeah.
spent way too much time doing it, and I'll never do another one.
Yeah.
at least not the way I built that one.
Yeah. Oh, it's yeah. What you say? Some of the things like it just resonates with me because I remember finding like looking for my first tools. You don't know what they do. You just look at what they look like and just try and match what, and and you find out like you got like the wrong pricking up like the stitching chisels, the wrong.
Yeah, wrong
But
size, and it made probably a little bit easier too for you on your end on that sizing, because so much of that sizing is metric, right? Y'all are on the metric. We're the only people on I don't even know what we call it. Standard. What
Yeah,
do they call it?
you guys in America have like
Y'all probably just call it
Fahrenheit
that
and
Yankee system.
ounces and just
But
have
yeah, being on the metric system is probably a little easier to kind of in your head see the size
yeah,
versus me when I see like especially with the pricking irons and stuff. A lot of that stuff is all millimeter,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So I'm always having to get a ruler and like a converter to look up like what's this size? What's it really? Okay, how's that work on my ruler?
yeah.
Back and forth.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have watched some of the video. I was watching Parker's video this morning because I was like everyone's making the dope bags. Those do you know those
Like
like
the travel bag, the men's travel bag.
yeah. And I was like everyone's making one. I might make one like in the future. So I was just seeing how they were made, and he was saying about how he skives it down to 3/4 of an inch or something. I don't know. He skives it down to a third of an inch, and it's like.
Yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
Americans just use millimeters.
When I was in undergraduate, uh, working on my undergraduate, I did a study abroad program through our university and spent 4 or 5 months in France.
Yeah,
And about that first month and a half, well, let's say the first month, it took me that long to start doing the math in my head for the exchange rate, the currency
yeah,
exchange rate. And then it still took me another month to get the metric in my
yeah,
head
yeah,
for everything,
yeah.
And then I never really got used to military time. We call it military time, the 24-hour.
Do you use that?
I don't.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't use it.
Yeah.
But while we're in France, everything ran off
Oh,
the
really?
24 hours. I'm
Wow.
like,
Okay.
yeah.
It's pretty easy. You just go two
It
back.
just had, yeah,
I go so if it's like 1700, you just minus two, so that's like
yeah.
5 p.m. Um,
Oh, I can do it now in my head. It just took me a while
yeah.
then.
I have because I understand like inches because when you're making belts, inches. I don't even know how much an inch is in a centimeter. Um,
Is
but
it
yeah,
10?
like pricking
Maybe?
irons, it's like 9 spaces per inch. Like that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or people say like 3 millimeters or something like that. I do have the leather down right on the American side of it, like the 2 to 3 ounce, sort of 3 to 4. But
Do y'all, there, is it figured in ounces or is it a measurement?
no, yes, it's measurements. I remember when I walked into a leather shop and I was like, oh, can I? Because this is when I was watching like videos and people were saying like 3 to 4, 4 to 5 ounce, and I walked in and I was like, can I have like I think I said like I don't know 3 to 4 ounce leather, and the guy said to me, he's like, we're not American.
Well, that took me a long time. Actually, that's funny because when I started out, when I was trying to figure out the ounces, like to me, I'm thinking like a 12-ounce beer, right? Yeah, a 16-ounce pint, right?
Yeah.
But so really, when I started out early, before I got a grasp of the ounce
Mhm.
system, that was one thing that I had found like a conversion online that would
Yeah.
put it in millimeters or centimeters or even an inch or a decimal form.
Yeah.
So that was helpful
Yeah.
as far as that conversion goes. And it took me a long time to really get a grasp of
Yeah.
the ounce because there's a lot of variability in it too.
I found like if you go on Google, you type in like leather weights conversion, and it has like a table and it has the one. But I remember Atkinson on his website, he has this sort of in-depth guide to about leather, like leather thread width as well. And yeah, in his little chart, I had the ounces to millimeters and all that sort of stuff. Because even thread width can be a pain because
Oh
I
yeah.
I use filet choix thread, which is that French thread, and you got like 532, 432, 632, and it's like the lower the number, the higher the thread, the thicker the thread. So
Yeah, I had bought I was doing some watch straps a couple years ago, and I was trying to really make them really fine quality. So I bought the linen, the French linen threads, and like I had to order one of the thread charts,
Wow.
like the
Okay.
sample charts from. There's a dealer here, RM Leather Supply,
Rocky Mountain.
and yeah, Rocky Mountain
Yeah,
Leather Supply.
I bought some leather from them. They're just they're I can't speak volumes of them. Like amazing delivery, like quick straight to Australia. Um, yeah, they're solid. Rocky Mountain.
But yeah, so that's who I'd gone through to order the thread, and also before I ordered any of it, I had to get. It's like a sheet of paper basically,
Yeah,
and it's got all the thread colors,
yeah,
and it's a piece of thread that's like tied on there, so you can actually put hands on it and feel. And then also at the top, it had the size chart
yeah,
where it had different size threads on there, correlating with the correct number. So I had to get one of those to even figure out what thread size I wanted to use. And then I had to figure out what size pricking irons I needed based on that thread
yeah,
size. That was a whole nother, because so many different people say so many different things. So I kind of had to take all that and average it out to what
yeah,
might work.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Do you use filet Schwartz thread? Do you use it today?
Yeah, you say it a lot fancier than I do in
Filet
my
Schwartz.
Texan. I
Filet
call it Phil all chinos.
Yeah, I think that's how I pronounced it when I first saw it, and then
But yeah, I really like it. I've used it on a few items. I did a bunch of watch straps there for a while, and some
yeah,
other like smaller, like fine leather goods, and that's what I would use. I like it.
yeah,
I had a little bit of a learning curve on it because I was so used to using nylon thread, like
yeah,
the tiger thread and stuff like that, where
yeah,
I can just cut it, burn them, and be done.
yeah,
But with that linen, you got to backstitch it really nice and pretty and knot it between the layers. And
yeah, yeah. It's an interesting story because when I got into it, like it was hard to find that thread. That and tiger thread was I remember tiger thread like it was just to find it was like you had to either had to get it supplied to you or I don't know what the story was, but I remember early on I struggled to find some, and there would be some Etsy people who would actually sell you like I don't know how long, like 50 meters or 100 meters worth of like the thread of the
yeah,
filet Schwartz thread, and then yeah, I found Rocky Mountain actually some supply the spools because I know you can buy from the actual company, but their website is quite hard to navigate through. And
yeah,
yeah, when I saw Rocky Mountain had it, I bought some and yeah, still got some today. It's
yeah. I like the tiger thread. But see, I don't do a lot of hand stitching.
yeah,
So one small spool of like the linen thread, the Phil all chinos, but one spool of that, because I think my size is 632 that I use.
yes, that's like
I think that's right. It's pretty small.
yeah,
I'll probably never use that whole spool for any of the 3 or 4 colors I got. And then same with the tiger thread. I've got some of the smaller ones, and they'll last me forever just because I don't do a lot of hand stitching if I can get away with it.
yeah. Can you use those in the sewing machine though, like the 632?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Like the tiger thread and all that.
Yeah, like yeah, fill on chinos.
The Phil all chinas. Uh, I don't know. Maybe it would work in like a. I think it would depend on the application.
Yeah,
Because I know on my big sewing machine, the tensions on it are pretty tight.
yeah,
And I learned pretty quick with the linen thread that if you pull too tight, it'll snap pretty easy
hmm,
on some of that smaller stuff that I use especially or was using.
yeah,
So I would think maybe like a smaller fabric machine maybe
yeah.
could run those threads through there. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not an expert on sewing machines because I do all hand stitching, and I did buy a fat fabric sewing machine. It was like a Singer one with the handle on it. Because
Yeah.
I was gonna make some pocket squares, and I was just like lining up like all the like you have to put the needle down to make it go through to loop and then pull it out and then cut it. I was like, man, like I don't know how these guys just hand stitch is so much more simpler.
Man, I'm just the other way. I don't mind hand stitching,
Yeah,
but is,
It'd be
I
so
mean,
much
when,
quicker. Like,
yeah, when I started out, everything I hands did everything,
yeah.
and I got my first machine about 6 months after starting
Mhm.
because I hand stitched like two belts and two or three guitar straps, and I said, nope, this
Yeah.
is not for me.
Yeah.
So I found there was somebody local that had a really good. I think it was $300,
Yeah.
which was very expensive for me then, just starting out for just a little hobby, you know. But I scrimped and saved for it, and I bought it, and it's a great machine. I still have it. I don't use it a whole lot anymore, but it was good for smaller items.
Yeah.
So when I was doing all those belts and guitar straps, it was excellent. But if I ever did anything over probably 6 ounces, I'd still have to hand stitch it most of the time.
Mhm.
Well, maybe probably a little thicker than 6 ounce. Maybe, it was maybe 8 ounce
Yeah.
was probably its limit.
Yeah.
So I mean, holsters and knife sheaths and anything like sizable, I was still hand stitching, and it was another 4 years before I got my big Cobra machine.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that there's pros and cons to both of them because like if you hand stitch and you're doing a full bag, that's just going to be one expensive bag because of your
Yeah. Well,
and
that's kind of something I ran into because I was, there was a point that I was trying to make money,
yeah.
and I was busy then. Like, you have to put a value on your time.
Yeah.
And I think that has to apply even if you're just looking at it as a hobby, right? Like, I'm married and I have a 4-year-old. I have to be able to justify my time
Yeah.
if I'm getting away from them, you know?
Mhm.
So, like you said, if you hand stitch a bag, you're going to have to ask a lot of money for it. And when I was starting out to be able to make something like that, I didn't have a market for that.
Yeah.
I couldn't convince anybody around here to spend, $1,000 on a hand stitched bag. I still can't.
Yeah. It's and I think I was thinking about this as well because do you know how you were saying about you sort of get that elitist when you were working for that professor and all that sort of stuff? I feel like there is a danger of becoming elitist as a leather crafter because you know what good leather is, you know what good leather is, you know like what hand stitching is. Like you can fall into that elitist side of it. Like it's sort of similar with shoemaking. Like I guess if you were, one of those people that could afford like a bespoke shoe, like it's made to fit your like the last is made for you, everything's made for you, and you sort of look down like someone's buying like a still a reasonably good shoe, but it's just a factory produced shoe. So
Right.
it's sort of a
Well, I saw something about that here not too long ago. A bootmaker,
yeah
uh, an individual made a comment because he was hand stitching the insoles or
yeah
something to the boot. I also am fascinated with shoemaking and bootmaking, but I'm not learned in it enough to know the processes. But
yeah
whatever it was, thing that he was doing, he made a comment and said, "I'm going to say it. If you're not hand stitching this and you're doing it on a machine, they're not handmade boots." Where on the other hand, I know some custom handmade bootmakers that make stellar work,
yeah
and they use a machine to do that process. So that's another angle to look at it, kind of like that. Are they cheating? Are they not? Is it really handmade? Is it
yeah
not handmade?
yeah I don't think there's a huge like I know there is a difference between hand stitching and sewing machine. But if you put next to a hand stitch machine like in a sewing machine like stitch, they would sort of last as long as each other. Like if you took good like as long as you're not, trashing it up.
I think
Yes.
the if you get super technical about it, yeah, I mean, a hand
Yeah.
stitch out, it is a stronger stitch.
Yeah.
Like the satin stitch is, you can't beat it. Uh, uh, the lock stitch. The issue with the lock stitch is if a top thread gets cut, it's going to come unraveled.
Yeah.
But on a saddle stitch, if a top stitch gets cut, you've still got back and forth through and through all the way down the item. You're still stitched all the way through.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any doubt that a saddle stitch is stronger. But like you said, I mean, if it's constructed well for the lifetime of the item, or in most cases, the individual's lifetime, not the product's lifetime, it's going to serve its purpose, and you're not going to have any issue.
Yeah.
I think it comes to the education part of it. Like, as a leather maker, my job's not just to make a product, but it's also to educate people why maybe my product is more expensive than what you get at the retail store.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we have to, as makers, you have to educate your consumer on why your items are better, or why you think your items are better, why they're better quality, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where we are right now, you and I, is we can look at other work and recognize what's done really well, because we've learned to appreciate people's work and we know what goes into it. Like, I wouldn't spend, say, $2,000 on a Louis Vuitton purse that was made in a factory.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say if I had $2,000 to spend on a purse to begin with. But if I did, and I was in the market for that, I would aim that money towards a maker who's going to be meticulously cutting those parts out by hand and hand stitching those parts and making it fully bespoke, like you said.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's the education,
Yeah.
educating that consumer.
It's sort of like how big your wallet is, how much time you want to be spent on an item. Yeah, it's a lot of factors. Yeah, and I'm not knocking machine stitching either. Yeah.
Oh, I recognize it. I mean, I recognize that I could be doing a lot higher end work on items, but I think there's another line to be drawn. For me, for example, is I was doing a lot of custom work.
Yeah.
Having fun, being really creative. And when I decided to change the direction of my business, it's when my wife got pregnant.
Yeah.
Because I knew things were going to get busy, because I don't do this full time.
Yeah.
I work a full-time 40-hour-a-week job.
Wow, that's impressive.
During the week, and I don't do leather work until my son goes to bed at night, right? And that may be 7:30, that may be 8:30 in the evening. So I don't go out to the shop until my son's in bed, and I try to put 2, 3, maybe 4 hours in a night in the shop. And I knew that a lot was going to change when my son was born, that if I was going to continue putting money into my hobby or craft, I was going to have to justify doing it.
Yeah.
And the justification was to make money, obviously. I mean, I do love doing it, but at the end of the day, you got to make money on it to continue it.
Yeah.
And that's when I changed over from making custom stuff. That for me, and like I've said, I like making custom items, but it takes more time. You got a lot more time into it. The design, making patterns for it, just the time sitting on your phone, chatting back and forth with a customer before you even start anything to make sure you're both on the same track, and then the time building it. And most of the time for me, I was always underquoting it. I wasn't charging nearly enough time. And I realized that I needed to create a product, an inventory to sell. It would be a lot easier for me to market something like that, because I can schedule my time around things like that.
Yeah.
For example, the totes that I make, I know how long it takes me to make those. So I can set aside specific amount of times to do that. And it really just, for me now, it really comes down to the routine and scheduling and time management for what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, even since then, that has transitioned a lot to what I do now. I mean, a majority of what I do now is private label stuff and
Is what? Sorry.
wholesale.
Oh
It's
yeah.
a private label. So here in town, we have a couple stores, different brands,
Yeah.
and they will provide me with the design, the artwork, and I build it for them.
Okay.
And it's their product. I'm essentially the manufacturer for it.
Yeah.
So keychains is what we've done a lot of in the past year. I made 8 or 9 thousand keychains in 2020.
Wow. That's
But I've got the clicker die, the die cutters. They send me a PDF with the artwork. I get a custom stamp made. We do it, and it's menial work. I mean, making 50 of the same thing, or 100 of the same thing, or 1,000. It loses its luster, but it's work that gets done that makes a dollar at the end of the day.
yeah.
But the silver lining of that is my leather work as on the business end has become a lot more profitable doing that kind of work. And also I can schedule my time around that so much more precisely that I can allow myself X amount of time a week or a month to work on a custom item.
Yeah.
So when I get to work on the fun stuff. And
Yeah.
doing that, I can accept custom work as I feel like it. I don't feel pressured that I have to take every order that somebody wants to place. I can be selective, and if something piques my interest, I can say, "Ooh, yeah, that sounds fun. We'll make that."
hmm
And then normally those are the projects that a couple weeks into it, I'm like, "Why did I do this?"
Yeah. No, you hit some good points there. Oh, yeah, with I'm not sure with with Australian slang, if you say nah, it means yes.
Nah,
Yeah, so if you say like yeah, nah, like you forget the yeah and it's a no.
I don't know.
So
I
it's
don't even know.
you say is so if I say nah, I'm not saying no. If I say nah, I'm not saying like what you said is bad. It's like I'm agreeing with you.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like an indifferent no.
Yeah.
If it makes sense. Yeah,
No,
like no, no, no. That's like no. I don't disagree with you. I just also think this.
yeah, it's because I was listening back to a podcast that I had, and I was saying like, nah, yeah, it was something like that, and I was like, if someone was listening to it, it would sound like I'm disagreeing with the person, but yeah, it's just I think it's just our
Gotcha.
slang.
Okay. Yeah, we're good.
So no, you hit on a good yeah. So Australian it makes sense, but probably for a foreigner it just
No, no. I think I do the same thing.
yeah. So yeah, you hit on some good points there. Like when when you sort of spoke about the custom order, that is so true with me because I've had custom orders before and I like doing them, but that's all. It's all good. Don't stress. Um, I like doing them, but yeah, it takes a long time to do the pattern, find the leather. This is the first time you're making a product ever, so you have to try and get it on the first go, or you have that very minimal margin for error. And yeah, sort of the time you spend into it, and you end up underpricing it because the person will run away if you. But
Well, yeah, and also what I would run into early on taking custom stuff, if it was something I'd never made before, I'd almost give it away. Like I wouldn't charge hardly anything just as long as I could break even so I could take pictures of it.
yeah,
So I could say, hey, look what I can make. You guys want to order one of these?
yeah,
And in hindsight, that was a terrible idea.
yeah,
But at the same time, it was an investment in myself to create an offering because that's kind
yeah,
of one of those double standards also.
yeah.
It's,
And it's a learning experience as well. Like, I remember I made a product, and I made it literally. He showed me a photo of it, and it literally matched it. It was, but man, I did not break even on it. I like
oh, I've got one of those projects in my shop right now. A gentleman bring me a bag.
Yeah,
He's a he's big into hunting, and
yeah,
he's like African hunter. He's a doctor, and he goes and takes these like goes to Africa and goes on the safari hunts, and he has this very specific bag that he liked.
yeah.
It's all nylon, and he wanted a leather one. And he handed it to me. He's like, "Hey, can you make this same bag but in leather?" I was like, "Sure." I've worked on it. I worked on it so long. I finally finished it a month or
Yeah,
two ago, and I I will not make money on that whatsoever.
yeah.
As much as I spent working on it and like
Oh,
redoing the patterns and
yeah. Oh, and it's so stressful. Like I get so because I'm the type of person where I want to get it done, and it's
yeah,
the stress of not getting it done. And when you're making something custom, it's yeah. But whereas with the pattern, with the tote bags, with your wallets or whatever, you have the pattern, you pull it out, and boom, there you go.
right.
It's
And a lot of times those things are easy to manipulate into different form
yeah,
or to adjust those patterns.
yeah,
But when it's something completely new, it's just throws everything.
yeah. It's like it throws a spanner in the works. So next one is so you don't do this full time. What do you do as your? Because that's just respect there. Like you, man, you must be drinking the coffee or something.
Lots of coffee, not nearly enough sleep.
Yeah,
Uh, time management's everything. And
yeah,
I'm always preaching that to people. Say like you got to get your time management, and I don't even have it down. Like my time management on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna say is like a 6.5.
yeah,
So I'm not bad, but I'm not great at it either. But yeah, I mean it's all time management and scheduling and just staying on top of myself. And uh, I've been doing it like that long enough now that that routine is kind of like permanently implanted in my head. Like when I don't have work to do in the shop, I go stir crazy.
yeah,
Does that does it is that a good slang? Um, yeah, I get busy, right? So if I sit on the couch, I'm like, what can I do?
yeah,
What can I do? Like I've got to a point where I can't sit down for very long. Like 2 or 3 nights in a row, just lounging on the couch after dinner and watching TV. Like I kind of go, it bothers me doing that.
yeah,
Uh, I always shut the shop down about a week or two before Christmas, and I stay out of the shop till January. And this time of the year, like right now, is always the hardest for me because I've been out so long that my routine starts drifting away.
yeah,
And then I slowly start being okay with sitting on the couch and like napping. And
yeah,
but the time management for me is, I mean, and mostly if I can put in anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a night, I can stay caught up
yeah,
and I can get work done. And if I can do that Monday through Friday, I stay caught up enough that I don't have to work on the weekends.
yeah,
So weekends can be family time.
yeah,
Now that doesn't mean that there aren't weekends that I'm out there working, but I try if I have to work on the weekend to include my son or my wife and my son too. If I'm working and he wants to come quote unquote help, I let him do it.
yeah,
If he takes interest in what I'm doing, I make sure he does it, and that's just part of it. I mean, that's the trade off now, and it's kind of becoming restrictive my time because I'm kind of at a point where I can't grow much more
yeah,
with without having more time to do it.
yeah,
So I've got a couple different options that I can help with that, and then we're kind of going to see how this year plays out a little bit the next few months to see if they'll be worth considering or not. But
yeah,
yeah, I kind of really went off from the question of what I my day job. Um, I work for a company that we sell water pumps.
yeah,
Um, they're like large industrial scale water pumps,
okay,
reciprocating pumps. and it's an oil and gas company, really, is what we are.
Yeah.
But it's water pumps for oil and gas production, just something along the lines of doing that. So
Yeah.
a lot of people think I'm loaded because when they ask when I say loaded, like have a lot of money,
Yeah.
and when they ask me like, well, what do you do for your full time job? It's, oh, you're in the old business. You must be rich, or you must have a bunch of money. I was like, well, no, I'm not. I'm not that kind of old.
Yeah.
I'm not that kind of old job, but I do. I wear a lot of hats. We're a really small family company. Um, I basically accounting and sales and anything else that's needed. So I keep the
Yeah.
books for us. We do accounts payable and accounts receivables, and like I said, sales, handle phone sales, and a lot of
Yeah.
really riveting things.
Well, that's a good thing
So
that you can have a lot of skills that transfers to leathercraft because it's not just making leather; it's also marketing, selling,
yeah,
talking. So that's it's good.
yeah, yeah. There's some crossover there, but I mean, it's been a really good job, and that's the problem. A lot of people say, well, when are you going to go full time in leather? And I say, well, I like my day job. I mean, I like mostly what I like about it is that I know what my paycheck's going to be every week,
Yeah.
and I know that it's going to be here next week, and
Mhm.
then the week after that. Uh, the uncertainty of like doing leather full time and working for myself full time, it just makes me. I don't think I'm brave enough to make the jump
Yeah.
to do that. Because
Yeah.
I mean, what happens when a catastrophe comes up? What happens when COVID breaks out?
Mm.
Like what would have happened if I'd have decided to go full time, before COVID and things tanked. There are so
Yeah.
many variables there. So
Yeah.
for the for the foreseeable future, I don't see myself going full time.
Yeah.
Not anytime soon. But what I do think I can do is find a kid in high school that wants to make a little money on a part time job, and they come work for me a little bit.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of what we're going to try to do. Hope maybe this year, maybe wait till the summer. And like I said, we're going to kind of see how this year goes to see if that's something I can justify doing.
Yeah.
And that's very exciting to me, right? Like I love the idea of being able to create a job for someone else, whether
Yeah.
it's
I know.
whether it's 6 hours a week or 20 hours a week, depending on what I've got going on. So,
Mhm.
but that's really all I can do now if I want to grow anymore from where I'm at.
Yeah. And I guess with that shout out, you are you getting more busy?
Well, not really. I've got a lot more engagement
Yeah.
on social media. I haven't got any orders or anything like that. But that again, that's to be said. Like I don't do custom work, so if somebody sees it and say, "Ooh, I want something like this or that," if it's not something I'm making regularly for my inventory items like the totes or the shave bags or some of those accessory items that I make, it's not something I'm just going to say, "Yeah, well, I'll make this
Yeah.
for you and you can do it like this or that."
Yeah.
I do try to keep some items in stock that I can keep on my website, like the totes, the shave bags, some nicer keychains and smaller items, the coasters, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's just the uncertainty and um yeah, there's so much things to consider as well before you make that leap.
Yeah.
Although, because yeah, your website's solid and you got your live stream videos and all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh, um,
I mean, to be honest, like my website doesn't. I really don't sell a lot of stuff online
yeah,
through my website. Um, I'll have a lot of people see what I do on my website and say, "Ooh, I like this, but can you do it this way or that way?" And that's when I say, "Well, I'm not taking on custom work, so
yeah,
I probably lose a lot of work from not accepting custom stuff.
Yeah.
But again, that's time invested to it.
Yeah.
So I can keep like the keychains and our private label stuff. I stay pretty busy with that.
Yeah.
The 2 or 3 people I work for doing that, they're pretty consistent on ordering.
Yeah.
And I can keep the tote bags.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I do like your tote bags. What sort of like leather do you use for them? Because I like that green, that
I
emerald.
like it's gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
I've had those for so long. I don't know why nobody's bought them. They're gorgeous. I love them. I think it takes a very specific lady to want a very bright green bag, I guess.
Yeah.
But, no, the leather I use on those totes, a majority of them I get from Acadia Leather.
Okay.
I think they're in Maine,
Yeah.
in the Northeast here in the U.S. And they've got some really beautiful, like I guess they're chrome tan, retans,
Yeah.
finished out leathers that got really, really pretty pull up to them.
Yeah.
They make bags. They've got a good temper, and their pricing's great.
Yeah.
And they ship for free, which is a plus.
Yeah. And a lot of those companies ship for free, and it's like all in America. Like when you buy them from overseas, it's like you have to pay the postage.
Oh, I know, man. I can't imagine. It's got to. I just can't imagine. I mean, I complain about some shipping that I've got to pay here. I can't imagine international.
Yeah, it's but usually if I go through like a carrier, like I try not go through like the postal service because then it's a lot more
Sure.
longer. But like an independent carrier, they have their own planes, their own couriers. It just gets to you so much quicker.
DHL, are they big in
Yeah,
Australia?
yeah, I go through DHL.
Yeah,
It just
I hear a lot of people talk about them, saying they're a good one to use if you can use them.
yeah,
Even,
yeah,
but I also started using the last tote that I did. I used some Wicked and Craig. It was a traditional harness,
yeah,
and man, it was really great stuff. I'm going to try to start using a lot more of that. Just it was beautiful.
yeah,
It wasn't quite bridal, but the harness
yeah,
was nice.
yeah. The shine to it. Yeah. Otherwise, there's FedEx as well. DHL, FedEx. I know some. I think Weaver uses FedEx. One of the companies that I'm getting is using FedEx. It's either DHL or them. But yes, for some reason the stuff from America is always more expensive from England. Like England's pretty good, but America's always. I think it's just the additional taxes that they put on when you get an import like brought in.
Sure.
And yeah. So if you could go back to when you first started, I guess what advice? Or I guess I'll mold these ones together actually.
Okay.
So, if you were first starting out, like you start like with the experience that you have, what advice would you give to yourself? I guess, or someone, or like a tip or a beginner. Yeah, sort of mold them into one.
Well, yeah, that's a question I asked when I was doing those blogs. Is like, if you could go back, what would you like? What
Yeah,
would you tell yourself?
that's where I got it. That's where I got it from.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's not good because me having asked that, I should know, right? If I could go back, I would tell myself to find another leather worker as quick as I could to ask questions to.
Yeah.
You know, like actually go to someone's shop and put hands on things, like tools and things like that. You don't have to spend a lot of money on them, but also it helps if you can.
Yeah.
There are a lot of tools that they're going to make you think you need, but you may never ever use.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell victim to that a lot early on. Is I bought a bunch of these tools that I saw in all these videos that I thought I needed,
Yeah.
and I still haven't used them very much.
Yeah.
But then also like cheap tools, if they do the job, they're not bad. You know, if you know how to use a tool, it can get the job done. Like bevelers, you can spend $15 on a beveler at Tandy, or you can spend $100 on a beveler from Ron's Tools,
Mhm.
and they're essentially going to do the same thing. And it kind of comes down to your skill on how well are you going to finish those edges when you bevel them. You
Yeah.
know, varnishing edges.
Yeah.
And again, like I'm no authority on that because I think I make a solid leather product, but I'm not making high end
Yeah.
leather either. So
Yeah.
I think that would be a good piece of advice to tell myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's quite interesting because I spoke about this sort of similar with Chuck, where the like you get your main tools and sort of like the other tools you get are more like specific tools that you only use for like one or two things. But yeah, and plus also you also pick up like little tips as well, like little hacks that you can use to, you know, do corners and all that sort of stuff. It's yeah. I,
well, and it's kind of like the old saying goes, if I could go back and do it all again, I'd do it all the same.
yeah.
You know, kind of it's like the romantic idea of it, right? Is the truth is, I mean, most of the things we learn from our mistakes,
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
right? Well, whether it's tooling or your process or your technique, like the only way to get better at it is to do it.
Yeah.
You have somebody come and sit down and show you, like with your wallets, if somebody sat down and showed you every single step how to do them, this is the pattern you cut out, this is how you stitch it, everything. Sure, you're going to learn that, but is it your wallet then?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good point because like yeah, I never thought of it like that because I think of it like oh, put me back 2018, boom, I'd smash it out, got the leather I want, got the skills.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
it's true because you wouldn't got where you are without those failures.
yeah, I mean, and you know that's another crazy thing too. We were talking about social media and like the how-to videos and stuff that were available on YouTube. When I started out, there wasn't a lot, but you get on there now, like man, if there was as much information available in 2012 when I started as there is today, I would be so much further ahead from where
Mm.
I am now, right? It's like that staggered
Yeah,
timeline.
yeah,
I mean, people starting out now, I mean, there is a ton of information out there that you can find. Not only is there a ton of free information, there is a lot of paid information. Like, there are so many people offering classes,
yeah,
like paid online classes and things like that, that, I mean, that wasn't even really available. Or if it was, I didn't know where to find it.
yeah. Oh, that's a very good point. Um,
It's kind of like the silly memes you see on Facebook floating around or all over. It's like support a craftsman when you buy a product from a craftsman, you're not just buying that product, you're buying 10 years of experience and failures and you know it's silly when we
literally
read them,
that yeah.
but it's true.
Did you get that from my one of my Instagram posts? I actually made something like that. Um, where is it? I'll read it out for you. It's pretty cheesy, but it's true though. It's cheesy, but it is true.
It's true. No, I'm not knocking it. And I just say it's cheesy because I've seen it so often and
Yeah,
applied in so many different places.
yeah.
But there's truth to it.
Well, I'll read you mine. Literally, like what you said, it just like sums up like mine in a nutshell. So it
Okay.
says, when you buy an item that has been handcrafted, you're buying more than just a product. You're buying a design that has been perfected after hundreds of hours of failures and experimentation. You are buying days, weeks, and months of setbacks, frustration, and moments of joy. You're buying something where every step requires full concentration. Most importantly, you're buying the artists more time to do something they're passionate about. That was
Yeah.
in 2018. 25 likes on it.
It's so true though. I mean, it is. I mean, if someone showed me the cookie cutter pattern of how to do it when I started, then like most of the things that I'm custom work I've made wouldn't have been my work. Now, that being said, the keychains I make are literally cookie cutter patterned, cutting die things. So there's not a lot of originality. I mean, a monkey could probably do most of that stuff, right? But that's more that part of it's turned into business and income versus like the totes and things like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, even then, like there's so many variables in all of it, right? Like
Yeah.
I didn't invent the tote bag. There are only so many ways to make the style of tote bag that I make.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely not the first person to make that. I didn't invent it. If I had invented it, I would have a shop on the Champs-Élysées in Paris.
And you'd have
right?
like 100 lawsuits that you'd be filing.
Yeah, right. But it kind of riding on the shoulders of giants. Isn't that how it goes?
Yeah, standing, sitting, I don't know what it is. Yeah, but
Standing on the shoulders of giants, right? Like I'm not innovative enough to come up with a totally unique, game-changing design. So someone has done that before me, but I can put my spin on those items to make them mine,
and that's what I like
yeah,
about the emerald
great.
green. That it's such a unique. I don't know why is not anyone buying that. I saw it. I was like, man, that's
I
nice.
really
Like, I
don't.
like it.
And I'll be honest, my prices aren't bad. Like I think
Yeah,
that may sometimes I think in consumers' brains, if the deal looks too cheap or too good to be true, they think that it is too good to be true.
yeah.
Right?
It's a weird phenomenon. Like there must be some psychology behind it because
Because they're really not expensive and they're great bags. The first tote I ever made, I gave to my wife, and that would have been in 2015.
hmm
And she carries it every single day.
yeah, that's
And it's great.
solid.
It hadn't, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's got a great patina on it.
Yeah,
And she's a teacher. My wife teaches fifth grade or fourth grade. And I don't know how teachers are in Australia or if you know any teachers or like young age teachers, but there are so many folders and books.
yeah,
Like she uses the bag. Like it's
yeah,
heavy. It's heavy for me.
yeah,
I mean, they're quality bags, and like I know what I have in them, and I know my time, and I don't feel like I have to charge an absurd amount of money for them. And I think that probably really does drive people away. They think that it's not priced high enough because I can see a similar bag made. It could be identical with different brands that are asking twice the price, but
yeah,
that comes in with their branding and the time they have put into their branding and their growth.
yeah,
Like I understand it,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
don't understand why nobody's bought the green bags.
yeah. The cream bags because they're tote bags. They're just handy. They're just bucket bags where you can just like chuck everything into them.
Oh,
Like
they're bare bones. There's nothing. There's
yeah,
nothing. They're easy to make. There are a million videos on how to do them, but I mean, they're handy. They're usable, and that's the thing with me. Like, they're a usable bag.
yeah,
And the reason I haven't really gone beyond that style or like trying to change them up too much is it's one piece of leather.
yeah,
I could probably be making a little bit more money and saving leather if I were cutting out 10 different pieces,
yeah,
stitching together to make the bag, right? Because you can get more of a yield out of a side of leather by doing it like that.
yeah,
Minimum, I can get 2 totes out of a side of leather. Sometimes I can get 3. Sometimes, not very
yeah,
often. It's got to be a pretty big side.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of waste that comes from a side of leather doing those totes, but with that one piece of leather for the body of the bag, you only essentially have your weakest points are the stitch lines, and that runs on the sides of the bag.
Yeah. Is
There's
it is it made in? It's sort of like you go straight and then there's like a down and it goes up and it goes straight like that and then you fold it. Is that how you do
yes,
it?
basically a rectangle with notches out of the middle
Yeah.
on either side, and just the corner stitch and those stitches straight up the side. And the way I look at it is those stitches are probably never going to fail because there's not pressure being pushed on your stitching, right? Like it's all going to be on the base of the bag.
And the
And
handles.
yeah, and the handles, and I'm glad you said that because like the handles on the totes I don't stitch them on. I always use the copper rivets,
Yeah, I
the
like them.
solid rivets, because when I sell a tote bag, I'll warrant the straps for the life of the bag.
Yeah.
I do a free replacement.
Yeah.
So if I tell my customers if your dog chews off the handle, I'll replace your handles.
Wow. Okay.
If you happen to catch it on a corner and you're pulling strong enough that you rip one, I'll replace them because I can get a Dremel and Dremel those rivets out of there and replace them really quick
Yeah.
versus stitching them on and trying to replace the handle and stitching back through the same holes.
Yeah. That's a
You
good
know,
point.
it's I mean it I say it's bare minimum, but it's
Do you have a bell skiver that you roll the top edges over?
no, that's all hand, man.
You do it by
No
hand.
belts.
Wow. Yeah. So, so like,
But I don't when I roll those tops, I don't always have to skive.
yeah.
Depending on how thick it is,
Yeah.
because those leathers I use from Acadia, depending on which style I use, um, determines the weight of of the leather I get.
Yeah.
Because they're all pretty rigid. They all have a pretty good temper to them where they'll stand up on their own.
Yeah.
So I can get a lighter weight, like a 5 ounce or so. Seems to be a really good weight for them. And a lot of time the temper I can roll those edges and glue them, and they'll
Yeah.
stay stout enough that I can sew it. But
Yeah.
some of them I do need to go through and skive down. And
Yeah.
I'll just use the hand skiver to do that
Yeah.
very
Do
carefully.
do you have to have a different weight for the handles as opposed to the body of the bag, or can you just use the same?
I've done the same. I prefer using on almost all the totes that I do. I'll do a 10, 11 ounce
Yeah.
vegetable tan.
Yeah.
And if I ever use the same leather the bag's made out of, I'll always double up. And sometimes, depending on what the ounce is, I'll do 3 layers and then sew. But I don't do that very often because I really like the contrast and color of the
Yeah. That's what I.
vegetable straps on the bags.
Yeah. I'm trying to find it. Where is it?
And
I
the
like that.
my big selling point on the handles is the veg tan's going to patina and wear in the
Yeah.
more you use them and just get a beautiful color to them.
Yeah. I like them. Yeah.
The green totes. Somebody buy the green totes.
Yeah. They're very well done. Yeah. So what's been your most popular items then?
You know, it's changed
Yeah.
over the past 3 or 4 years. The first year I kind of started and really started making the like inventory product that's stock that's available to buy.
Yeah.
Um, the totes were really popular in the beginning, and then the shave bags. When I started making the shave bags, the dot kits, they they flew off the shelf like crazy. Um, Especially here locally
Yeah.
at Christmas, I couldn't make enough. There were years where I couldn't make enough. I would sell out, and then I think I overextended my presence here locally because the last Christmas I don't think I sold but maybe 1 or 2 of the shave bags.
Yeah.
I still have quite a few of those on the shelf, but the totes have stayed consistently popular.
Yeah.
The ladies really like them, and we do well with those here locally, and we ship quite a few of those. I shipped one to Colorado yesterday, the Wicket and Craig bag.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the contrast you have on the dot kit. I
And
like it.
again, I can't take credit for that because somebody, plenty of people did that well before I started doing that, like the veg tan over the top on the zipper.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, I like the veg tan and then the like the contrast between the two colors. It's nice.
Yeah. And I like doing that. Like, I really like those finished out leathers, but I love veg tan.
Yeah, same. Yeah,
Hands down, it's my favorite.
yeah.
So if I incorporate that any way I possibly can, I always do. Um,
So that's not a chrome tan that you're using for the body, the main part.
which one is it? The shave bags? No, yeah, I guess it's a chrome tan. The stuff from Acadia, it's a
Yeah.
retan,
Oh,
finished
okay.
chrome tan,
Yeah.
probably.
I like the Texas flag in the background.
Yeah.
Um, hobbies outside. Do you want to answer tips for beginners or
For beginners, you know what? Ask questions.
yeah,
If you're on social media and somebody's got a style that you want to learn, ask questions.
yeah,
I
and
never I never turn down a question. If it's something that I don't know, I'll tell somebody or I'll give them a friend of mine that I know and say, go ask them.
yeah,
Like, don't be hesitant to help
yeah,
if you can help, and don't be afraid to ask questions, because the worst thing I can say is no, I don't know, or here's a friend that can probably help you better than me.
yeah. Yeah, it's yeah. I've been sort of blown away by the the sort of how easy it is to talk to leather crafters. Like I thought that people were more like keep everything secret, like what they use.
Yeah.
But no, I've been yeah. It's great to talk to some.
I'll also say a tidbit of information for someone beginning. Do some research on your own before you ask all those questions.
Hmm.
Right. So there are a bunch of groups on Facebook. There are a ton of group.
Yeah,
There are still a lot of forums that are going on,
yeah,
and using that search function, because on a forum or those Facebook groups by now, any question you can think of has been asked.
yeah,
Some of those people, they get so upset when you ask some of those silly questions.
mm,
So save yourself not embarrassment, but getting upset from other people getting upset, and search, and you gotta put time in yourself.
yeah,
You can't just expect it all to be handed to you, and that's hard. That's hard for people now, right?
yeah,
Like, we're such a mentality now that, well, I want to get from point A to point B immediately,
yeah,
but there is no point A to point B anymore. If you want to get good at something, it's point A to point Z. You got to hit all those steps in between, and you got to put the time in to learn it.
yeah,
And I'll be honest, there are things that I've given up on because I didn't want to put the time in or didn't have the time to do it.
yeah,
That I had to choose one direction or the other, and that's a valuing your time. If you don't have the time to invest, then
yeah.
you need to
And
focus on something.
yeah, that's true because you can only do so much with information. Like you have to sometimes you just have to learn from your failures, fake failures. Like,
Well,
man, like
on that
I was gonna say, like
on
when I started out, it was like failure, 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 failure. Try this, didn't work, and you sort of work your way.
oh, we all have our box of products that's no one in the world's allowed to see except for us. I'm sure you have one of them. I mean, I do. I've got my box of things that I made, and I said, nope, no eyes of the world will see this product ever.
Well, I
But you
got
don't throw them out. You keep them because you know you're going to want to look at it and see what
yeah,
you could have done different to make it better.
yeah, yeah. I got my first minimalist wallets that I made, and yeah, it's good when you because I was actually looking back like on my Instagram like 2 years ago, and it's like you see those little joy moments when you're starting out and you sort of hit like a little milestone, and sort of when you get more experience, you don't have those experiences as much because you're sort of um,
Well, I think that when with me, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like it becomes repetitive.
yeah, and you sort of I
Like
made a
you don't
mistake, gotta have to
you
redo it
don't have
again.
those. You're not reaching those accolades,
Yeah,
and then you'll. I think that that's why I still try to take some custom orders here and there, and
hmm,
having been able to be selective on those custom orders, it's allowed me to make new things, to challenge
yeah,
myself. Because I think that's what we're all really after, right? Is we want to chase that challenge to see, well, can I do it?
hmm,
Can I get that? It's like the video game, right? Like, can I get the high score?
yeah,
Can I can I do better than my last piece?
yeah,
But yeah, that's every few months I'll do the same thing. I'll sit on my Instagram and scroll through, right, and like go back to the beginning and watch my progress.
yeah,
And I kind of surprise myself, like, man, some of that stuff was really bad. There are a lot of items out there that people paid really good money for that I wish I wouldn't have put my maker stamp on because I
wow,
don't want anyone to see that I made them.
yeah. Well, actually, going back to that point you raised about going from point A to point B, but you have to go to point A to Z. I think one thing you get discouraged by, I know for me, like you assume you're going to go viral if you post this or something like that, and it's sort of the fact you don't go viral straight up doesn't mean you have to quit. It's I think we've lost that patience because I think because we live in a faster world, like you know that patience is hard to. You have to
Oh, absolutely, it is hard because the world we're all so fast paced now, right?
yeah,
It's we want it now.
yeah,
We want we want to order it online, but we want to order it Amazon Prime, so we'll have it in 2 days instead of 5 days.
yeah,
Like I want to go to the store and you don't have it in stock. Well, I want it right now.
yeah,
We've been conditioned to understand that, like, I want this, so I'm going to get it right now, and I'm going to have it right now, and we don't want to invest the time to get it. And
yeah,
it's work. It's just work. We don't want to put the work in for it. It's
mm,
hard. People don't want to do hard things. And that doesn't mean it has to be physically tolling on us, and like it doesn't mean you're gonna have to break a sweat to get it, but it's just the mental work and the physical
yeah,
work and everything associated with it.
yeah. Yeah, because I know with me myself, when I like look on people's Instagram and you think, wow, like these people have like such a solid, they have all these products. And I think there was a point, I think it was last week, and I just had to just tune out. It's like you can't judge yourself from these people doing it longer. They've put in the time, and you just have to focus on yourself, if that makes sense. Like not judge yourself
Oh, it's
according
so
to
hard too. It's so hard not to judge yourself.
yeah,
You know, like, oh, and you start to not trust people, right? It's like you make something and you see all your flaws, and then someone else sees it, like, wow, that's all. I trust you. You're
yeah,
just telling me to make me feel good.
yeah. Um, well, then that leads me to the next one. So, what items are you inspired by? Like, what sort of, I guess, yeah, just this, like, style wise. Um,
Um, I'm I'm really inspired or influenced by. I really appreciate like Western, like traditional Western art and
yeah,
work.
yeah.
There there's a group here called the TCAA. It's the Traditional Cowboy Artist Association.
Is that on Facebook?
Yeah, they're on Facebook. They'll be on Instagram. They're it's a very elite group of individuals, and they're the best of the best of the best. I think it's 4 or 5 categories: saddle makers, bit and spur makers, silversmith, and rawhide braiders and leatherwork.
So,
And it's just these guys that do this museum quality work, and the work they do is just astonishing. It's incredible work, and I find it as a great influence. It doesn't reflect a lot in my own personal work, but it does give me something to look at, to strive to get to eventually, if that
yeah.
makes sense.
So it's TCAA Cowboy Arts.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
the
I'm looking at their stuff
Traditional
now.
Cowboy Artists Association. And it is. I mean, it's just incredible work. And yeah, yeah, that's them.
Yeah,
And
that's
they're very influential. And like I said, you don't see that influence on any of my work just because that's not the direction I've gone. But I've in this little journey, I've grown to appreciate artists out there that are making things that are just incredible.
yeah,
And it may not be where I want to go, but it gives me an idea of where an individual can get after putting in the work to get there.
yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah, yeah. That was some nice leather work. Very Western.
Yeah. Well, I
It's
mean, it's
yeah,
all cow. It's
yeah,
straight up cowboy work, but
yeah.
um, it's great work. And there are a ton of people out there that I follow and that I watch and
Hmm.
see how they do their work, whether it's their business models or how they manage their time or the product they make and how they represent it. So there's a ton of it out there and just so many to name,
Yeah, yeah.
but those guys, they're tops.
Um, because on your Instagram you do the live stream videos. See, you like them? You're not afraid of getting in front of the camera and
Oh no, it doesn't bother me.
no?
And I always joke because I'm out there working at night, right, by myself, and there's only so many podcasts I can listen to, and only
Yeah,
so much music, and I really kind of get lonely. So if I'm talking to the live feed on my phone, I'm not talking to myself.
yeah,
So, and I think we talked about this earlier,
yeah,
like when when you have a presence and you're yourself and you know that it's a real human being there and they're doing the work, or whether it's them having to pause a video to go get their son a juice out of the refrigerator or something, like it's real life, like it's real people, and I connect with that a lot.
yeah,
And I don't want to hide anything. I could have you know fancy lighting and a script to talk about, but I mean that's not me. I'd rather get on there and talk with people that want to hear me talk and answer
yeah,
questions and engage with people.
yeah,
So it doesn't bother me too much, and it gives me a way to create content, sort
yeah,
of, and let
yeah,
people know that I'm still working on stuff.
yeah. So you get the I've never done a Instagram live before. So when you have your phone set up, you actually get like the comments, like the live comments pop up as you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So you've got you do the forward facing camera.
Yeah.
And so at the bottom, if somebody likes it or comments, you can see it.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can answer it or you can type back to them. And
Yeah.
so I mean, it's an interactive. It
Yeah.
makes it interactive with people, and you
Yeah.
know, half the people that follow me, if not more, are other leather workers.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the same way on Instagram. More than half the people I follow are leather makers, also.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it'll be a question, be like, "Hey, what kind of sewing machine is that in the background?" Or,
Yeah.
what tool is that you're using? Or what kind
Yeah.
of leather you using tonight? Stuff like that. So, and I'm fine with that. Like I like interacting with those other makers also.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great because yeah, I forget there's people starting out like for some reason you get locked in your own journey and you forget that people are starting out like this month or today and yeah it's
Yeah, everybody's on their own path,
yeah
and even this. I mean, it's like when you're coming up in school, like in grade school, like there are no stupid questions.
Yeah.
So I mean, don't be afraid to ask it.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's going to be a simple question to be answered, and I'll tell you.
Yeah. What's the most people you've ever had on a night?
Oh, what's that on a live feed?
Yeah.
Well, not. It's generally not very many. I
Okay.
think maybe max 15 or 20 people.
Yeah. I saw your recent one. I don't think it wasn't live. It was the introduction for new people who have followed you.
Oh, the other night, yeah. Well, because that was probably one of my better nights because there were so many new followers on there. So I kind of wanted to be like, "Hey, this is me. This
Yeah.
is who Parker was talking about."
Yeah. So your hobbies outside of leathercraft?
Man, I don't have a lot of them.
No.
I do like to get in the outdoors, and um, I used to do a lot of hunting and fishing, but um, that can be difficult at times, and just
Yeah.
time and scheduling and things like that. So
Yeah.
uh, I do like shooting sports. I
Yeah.
enjoy shooting sports a lot, but same thing. It's just making time to do it, and I mean, for the most part, leather's my hobby still, even though it's a job.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest would be cooking.
Okay.
I do most all the cooking in our home, so I
Yeah.
really enjoy cooking and
Yeah. I've seen a
doing
couple of
that.
your photos on the barbecue. Like you posted
Yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah. I like smoking some meats, throwing some barbecue on, and when I have time, because I mean that's time consuming in itself.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a story. It was like, can you smell this picture? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That was a couple 2 3 weeks ago. I had
Yeah.
marathon cook.
Um. So you did a bit of so this has got yeah. You did a bit of interviews. Do you reckon you'll get back into them?
I'd like to, I really enjoyed doing that. It was fun. I had a bunch of people slated, a bunch of people that I wanted to interview, and I think I don't know. I enjoyed doing them, but I feel like that uh, what's the word? The written blog's really not the way of the
Yeah.
world now. Like the podcast is video interviews and stuff. It's a lot more effective for people. So, I mean, I was doing the interviews because it was interesting to me and it was a fun way for me to share other people.
Yeah.
But I know, I mean, it doesn't get the traction quite like a live interview or a podcast or something like that.
Hmm.
It's what makes it more intimate, when you are able to hear someone talking rather than reading it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was fun. I've got some other ideas for some little articles I'd like to write up, but I just haven't had time and it keeps getting sidelined. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if or when I'll get to those.
There's so many hours in a day.
Yeah, man, not enough.
This will probably be the last one. Um. So yeah. So what's your? I got this from your interview as well. So
Okay.
your opinion on the like maker movement, and I sort of added to it. So the competition, is it hard in America? Because I guess we're sort of worldwide, but in America that there's yeah. I imagine the
Well, I
competition.
think I think that there are people interested in making things, but I also think there have always been a lot of people doing this.
Yeah.
I think the advent of social media has given everyone an outlet to see into that.
Yeah.
And most of those people that were doing it before saw social media as an outlet to showcase their work as a way to make sales. And in doing so, they've created a community that kind of surrounded it. So I, I don't really know how you'd run those numbers to know for sure, but I do think that there've always been a lot of people. I don't think it's a dying art. Leather's not a dying art. I hear that all the time from
Yeah.
people, and I say no, it's not. I mean, there are a ton of people out there. There are a ton of people on Instagram doing it. You can assume that there are also a ton of people that aren't on Instagram doing it.
Yeah.
So to speak to that, I do think there are a lot of people that have gotten interested in it, and I think they've gotten interested in it because they've seen it through social media and seen what can be done and made, and that the resources are available to them.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. It'd really be hard to know for sure one way or the other, but I think it has had a big influence on it. And
Yeah.
as far as selling and competing with others, I think that there's enough market share out there for everybody. You
Yeah.
know, I think it all depends on the work you want to put into it in marketing yourself online and locally, going to shows, and it's all a lot to do with the effort you put into it.
Yeah.
Um, Anywhere here, there's going to be some sort of a show or a market to go to that you can participate in, and you know how much effort are you going to put into it to get it out there and really put your product out there? Because I mean, there are thousands of people doing probably the exact same thing I am,
Yeah.
but you know, there's enough people out there that want leather products to keep us busy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually that's a really good point because I had a thought the other day where I was like, if I was selling a wallet for $70, that's not US, that's Australian. But I was like, if I sold 7,000 of them, and there's 6 billion people in the world, so if I just sold, where's my calculator? 70 times 7,000. Wait, that's 490,000 like dollars right there. So
Yeah,
I guess the pool is, yeah, you just need to find 7,000 people, and there you go.
it's out there. People are out there, and yeah, sometimes it can make you feel like you don't have a presence, but you just seem like you're flooded with people doing the same thing that you are. But the truth is, I mean, there are enough people out there that you can do it. You shouldn't get down on yourself. If anything, you should just use that as a motivation to keep on and
Yeah.
improve your work and compete if you feel like you're having to compete with somebody else. It's out there. I mean, we all have ups and downs. I have good months and I have bad months.
Yeah.
I have good years and I have bad years.
Yeah.
But that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But people appreciate fine handmade items,
Mhm.
and there are some people that just don't care. We we just gotta. I think, and we talked about this earlier. Like, it's our job to educate our customers and our potential customers on why what we make is better than a retail store
Yeah.
or uh, some random factory manufactured item.
Yeah.
And there are enough people that appreciate that are willing to spend the money on a handmade item that I don't think we have too much to worry about.
Yeah. No, I definitely. Again, no. Nah, that means yes. No, I completely agree with you, and that was, yeah, that was good. Then, actually, I might ask you one more question, actually, because I had a thought. So, do you know how you manufacture for another company? Do you
Uh-huh.
think that would be the way forward of manufacturing? Because instead of hiring like a massive plant, so to speak, warehouse where you're leasing, you're paying electricity, someone can have like a clicker press in their shed and pump out the work for you. Yeah, what's your opinion on that? I thought I would ask.
Uh, I don't know. I think it depends. I think it depends on the whoever's buying that product,
Yeah,
right? Like, I think if an individual can do it and do it in I don't want to say affordable, but a competitive fashion, because I can compete by saying these are handmade in my shop. I touch every single item. Um, I use leather that's tanned and sourced in the U.S. And you're buying a product to sell in Texas from a Texas maker who's making it. I think it comes down to a lot with how you market your item as
yeah,
far as that goes. I mean, I'm sure there's some company in China that can do the exact same thing I'm doing for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
My customer appreciates the quality that I can put out because on their end they can turn around and market it as handmade
Yeah.
item as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the potential's there. I mean, there's always going to be somebody bigger that can do more for less, and but at the same time, market shares out there for them as well. Like their customers aren't my customers.
Yeah. That's a good. Thanks for your time, Jesse. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet, man. I